More than 400 years ago, in a small rustic kitchen in the village of Le Puy, France, 6 women gathered around the fireplace. The year was 1650. These women were very different from one another. One was a 15-year-old orphan, one a widow. Others were from wealthy families. Yet, despite their differences, they shared a deep love of God and a common desire to serve the needs of the poor around them. 30 years of war had taken a devastating toll on their village. Widows and orphans were especially hit hard. Surrounded by such desperate conditions, how could they possibly make a difference? For guidance, these 6 women sought spiritual direction from a young Jesuit priest, Father Jean-Pierre Médaille. He told them to embrace a new way of being religious, not cloistered, as was the norm, but living openly among the people. And so they formed the first community of the Sisters of St. Joseph and divided the city block to block to discover the needs of those they came to call their dear neighbors. Father Médaille gave these women a special grace, or charism, a spirit to live and work to bring all people into the union with God and each other. This is the same charism we speak of today. To support themselves, the sisters made ribbon and lace. Their numbers grew and the community prospered for more than 100 years. But the French Revolution would change everything. Violence and death gripped the country, and when the sisters refused to renounce their religious freedom, they were forced into hiding or sent to jail. Mother St. John Fontbonne was among the sisters arrested and thrown into prison.
As you can imagine, we prayed quite a bit. It was in June of 1794 when we learned that 2 sisters had been guillotined in Le Puy. The next month, on July 26, 1794, I was told that on the very next day I would meet the same fate. I thought I was ready, but God had other plans for me. The morning I was to be executed, we prisoners learned that the government had fallen, and instead of being executed, we were set free. You realize that our numbers were greatly diminished, but we few remaining sisters continued to do as many good works as possible. To my surprise, I was asked by the cardinal to accept the mission of refounding the Sisters of St. Joseph. I was awed and troubled by the magnitude of this request, but I asked God for help, and I said yes. I arrived in Lyon to begin my assignment on August 14, 1807.
Within 30 years, there were more than 100 communities of sisters in France, serving God and the dear neighbor. They ministered to the sick, the elderly, and the young. They founded hospitals, schools, and orphanages. By 1826, 80 convents had been established in France. The world was expanding, however, and in 1834, the Bishop of Missouri wrote to the Vicar General of the Archdiocese of Lyon, requesting religious personnel. And so began the move to America.
I was asked to send 6 sisters to St. Louis, Missouri. I'd never even heard of this place, but I agreed, and after 49 seasick days on the ocean, the first sisters arrived in New Orleans. From there, they traveled up the Mississippi River to St. Louis, where they founded St. Joseph's Academy, which included a school for the deaf. What I did not live to see was that 12 years after my death, more sisters will be sent from France to settle in Bay St. Louis, New Orleans, and then right here in Baton Rouge.
On October 22, 1868, 4 sisters arrived in Baton Rouge aboard the Robert E. Lee steamboat. They had been sent to take over an orphanage that cared for 11 little girls left parentless by the Civil War. Within 2 weeks, they opened St. Joseph's Day School in a small 4-room house on what today is known as 7th Street. Today, St. Joseph's Academy is a national blue ribbon school of excellence, where students are educated to be responsible and unifying members of the world community. Here, relationships are formed, bonds are strengthened, and knowledge is shared. Faith and wisdom find a home in each young woman all the days of her life. We are ever mindful of those 6 women in that small kitchen in Le Puy. We remember the steadfast endurance of the sisters during the Reign of Terror in France, and we continue to live the charism that Father Madai first gave them in 1650, and that continues to be handed down generation after generation.
Good and gracious God, we are here today to embrace the past, and we ask you to help us deepen our awareness of our history, traditions, and spirituality to ensure the preservation of our story for future generations.
Nurturing the present, we will engage in a deeper understanding of the mission and charism of the Sisters of St. Joseph. Help us all to be part of creating a new future as we interpret our charism in light of today's world, and help us to truly live out the mission,
so all may be one.